I'm delighted to be joined by Rhiannon Stafford, Managing Director of Grape Talent. Rhiannon is an organisational development consultant and has a wealth of experience across a wide variety of businesses and industry sectors. So thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today, Rhiannon. We're going to be tackling and talking about coaching for performance. So, Rhiannon, we all have our individual views and thoughts on what coaching is. What do you mean by coaching?
Well, first of all, you've made me really blush here. So, Eloise, thank you for that lovely introduction. I hope I live up to everybody's expectations now.
I'm sure you will.
So I've got some notes jotted in front of me as well, just to prompt some of my memory. But you're right, we've all got a different thought around what coaching is, and quite often I hear the term coaching and mentoring kind of used interchangeably. And coaching is sometimes also something that we associate with the most senior people in the organisations. They have their executive coaching. It's a bit exclusive, really. But I think that coaching is something a little bit different. And if we think about coaching in organisations, it can be a really effective way for improving an individual's performance and engagement levels if it's done well. And if it's done well, it can provide real clarity for an individual on their direction and where they fit into the organisation, but also tap into our natural desire to be autonomous and to be goal seeking, because that's really what's inside us. We want to have control around what we do, and we are kind of hardwired to find a goal, seek a goal, and to achieve that goal.
Absolutely.
So let me say, a little bit more about what I mean by that, because psychology tells us this is quite years ago. Humans, we're a form of a servo mechanism. That blew me away when I heard that. What's a servo mechanism?
I was going to say, please explain that for us.
Well, a servo mechanism, you're going to laugh now, it's a system that auto-corrects itself in order to achieve a kind of a specific goal or an outcome. So I always kind of use this as an example, which is totally different to humans, I know. Think of a torpedo that's being fired from a submarine. You put in the destination for the torpedo, but then it thinks and it calculates itself based on your depth in the water pressure, how far somewhere, some things, tides. It does all of that kind of calculation to arrive at the correct destination. That's a kind of servo mechanism. Believe it or not, we're a little bit like torpedoes in that way as well. The most unhuman thing possible, isn't it? But if you think about it, when you've told people what to do and how to do it, how often have they actually done it? They go away and do it their way, don't they?
Yes, usually.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's because as human beings, we've got this desire for autonomy and a desire to achieve an objective, but in our own way. And this is what I think coaching for me is really what it's about. It shouldn't be about coaching telling somebody what you have done and how you have done it, but instead it's about helping that individual understand what needs to be achieved, what's the bigger picture, what's their role in that bigger picture, and then supporting and enabling them to get to that destination in their own way. Now, but sometimes we forget about that first and most critical step of that clarity of direction, and we often go straight into what needs to be done, when have you got to do it, and how should you do it, right? I don't know if that's been your experience. I know I've had that in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So why should organisations be concerned about coaching?
Well, we know right now, don't we, that the best performance comes from people who are feeling engaged. But I think what's happened though in HR, that we've started to spend so much time on engagement activities, the fun stuff, the games. I don't know, it could even be like fruit on a Friday, or we go out for team drinks. Engagement has become quite transactional and it's become quite activity driven. But real engagement doesn't come from activities like that. It comes from people's everyday experiences at work. And I genuinely, so why should we be thinking about coaching? Because I really think it's important right now to invest in the coaching skills of our managers. And I mean the line managers, not these senior leaders in an organisation, but it's the line managers, the people that the likes of you and I see day in, day out, our bosses, that really have a big impact on our experience. But I don't mean coaching in terms of telling people how to use the GROW model, you know, and taking them away from a workplace and having a coaching session. It's, for me, I think it's about trying to develop the coaching skills within our managers so that they have a day-to-day coaching leadership style, because it's the conversations that they have every day, the feedback that is given every day. And if we can help them become more of a coach than a boss that tells what to do, we tap into people's desire for autonomy, a desire for certainty, being able to know where they're heading, and then enabling them to find the best way to get there. And you know, at the moment, let's face it, pandemic, COVID-19, we use this kind of phrase VUCA an awful lot, haven't we? A volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous.
Yes.
I think that's what, we've never known anything so bloody complex and ambiguous as we do right now. And it's an incredibly tough market for businesses to be in. So don't we really want to have our people really engaged as much as we can do right now? That's really important for us, because engagement, you know, delivers better quality work, delivers higher performance. So why should we think about coaching now? Because we need our people to be engaged. We need them to deliver high performance. And there's so much evidence that shows a coaching style of leadership can deliver that for us.
Absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree. And you know, when you're coaching somebody, rather than telling them what to do, you're coaching them, and they start thinking for themselves. Then there's a snowball effect, isn't there, of how much more productive they are. And you know, it might be uncomfortable for them at first, and it might, you know, things sometimes take longer initially, don't they, to get people thinking for themselves. But the long-term rewards for doing it are far exceed the you know, I'm going to tell you what to do constantly. So what do you suggest organisations should do, Rhiannon?
Well, this is really kind of on my mission to remove coaching from the domain of senior leaders and executives only. I think we really need to rethink what we believe to be coaching. And don't get me wrong, because you know, I do leadership coaching, so I still would like to have a marketplace out there. There's a lot of value in leadership coaching for managers at any level in the organisation. But often in organisations, we think of that as coaching and nothing else. So the first thing I would say is, let's shift our understanding of what coaching is. Coaching is something that we can get all of our managers to do. And it's not a wishy-washy, and it's not about being nice to people and not telling them when they've done something wrong. Because great coaching, I think, has kind of got three elements to it. To be a great coach and to drive great performance, you've got to spend time setting out clearly what the destination is, whether that's what's the overall organisation destination, or your department, or your team. Without knowing what you're trying to achieve and where that person fits in, coaching is, it goes nowhere. But you've got to bring it live for people, make it relevant. And here's an interesting fact that I only realised, only learned fairly recently. Your mind takes action relative to your most dominant thought or focus. So if your most dominant thought or focus is, you need to make 10 outbound calls today, that's kind of all you're going to do and nothing else. But if your dominant thought is, I need to play my part to increase revenue by 5%, think how much broader you're thinking straight away. So that's what I mean about making that end destination, that goal, easier to understand. It's more than just the tasks that you want someone to do. So what are we trying to achieve? Then it's about giving feedback on how that person is working towards achieving that goal. And any feedback is better than no feedback, but the best kind of feedback is timely, so very close to when that person has carried out that action or that activity. If they did it well, or if they didn't do it well. Coaching is about giving that feedback and that clarity. but close to the event, not saving it up to the annual end of year appraisal. So something like feedback around how close that person was to achieving their goals, and asking them what they could do differently. So you're not telling them exactly what they did wrong, but you do need to say, well, you haven't achieved that, right? What can you do differently to achieve that tomorrow or next week or next month? You're not telling them, but you're asking them questions. And here's an interesting one. The objectives that we do give people, again, this is how our brains work, and this is still relatively new to me. Frame objectives as problems to solve and let the individual figure out and find that solution. It kind of fits in there, doesn't it, with that concept of not telling somebody what to do, but, you know, our problem here might be with how do we increase revenue by 5% in our team? Mm-hmm. Now, people might think, well, actually, the more outbound calls I do, the more likely I am to find a sale and convert it. Right, that's what I'll do. And that's quite different because the individuals figure out what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it and come up with their own solutions. So
it's the purpose, isn't it? So then they feel they've got a purpose for why they're doing what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they've found their solution, because it goes back to being this servo mechanism. We auto-correct. So if I know that I'm on the wrong path because I've been given some feedback, let me auto-correct and find a different way of doing it. Don't just tell me what you want me to do, because that might not be what I want to do or what's the best thing to do. And believe it, that's kind of really simply coaching. And I don't know, but a lot of people I've spoke to, coaching, they automatically go to the grow model, you know, the goal reality, and having a coaching conversation around grow, which is so artificial. That's not how you can do it as a manager in the moment on a day-by-day basis. So, go back to your question, what do I think organisations need to do? Reframe how they think of coaching, and think of coaching more as a management or a leadership style, and then spend the time and energy and effort to develop those type of skills in the leaders in your organisation. But it's got to be all the way down, because you can't say, oh, we've got a problem with our middle managers, they don't coach, let's train them how to coach. If their bosses aren't coaching them, they're not going to have that experience down as well. So yeah, I think it's about reframing what we believe coaching to be and actually making an investment in the skills needed to do that.
Brilliant. Rhiannon, thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge with us today. And we look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks, Eloise.